Well, welcome back, and thank you for joining us this afternoon for a continued Facebook Live presentation on the devastating wildfires that continue to just wreak havoc here across the Northwest. And right behind me you can see the smoke-filled skies over downtown Portland. This is our Rose City Sky Camera, and we're having a tough time just seeing across the river to Waterfront Park. So obviously very, very thick smoke, and that is impacting everyone. I want to let everyone know that is directly impacted by the fires right now. If you go to the KGW main page, kgw.com, we have the very latest information. As soon as we get it, it is on this website, breaking down the different evacuation zones, be it 1, 2, or 3, go now. That is all updated on our website as soon as we get it. All the latest fire information, in terms of acreages, in terms of emergency resources, in terms of shelter availability. All of that you can find on kgw.com. Why we are here this afternoon streaming live here on Facebook and YouTube is to give folks kind of a weather overview of what's going on. As we step outside, we look outside, and the air is just disgusting. This, of course, the live look from the Rose City Sky Camera. We are still under an air quality advisory, and this goes for the next couple of days here. So let's go back to the weather graphics here, and I'm going to advance this and show you what's going on right now with the setup. The air quality advisory is for everywhere shaded in gray here. So basically the entire state of Washington, the entire state of Oregon, good chunk of Idaho. The western valleys here, that air quality advisory lasts until at least noon on Monday, and this is possible that it gets expanded and for a longer duration as we get through the Cascades and into eastern Oregon, and this is all, of course, due to the wildfire smoke. What we're also seeing is a dense smoke advisory where the air is especially thick. That includes eastern portions of Multnomah County, good chunk of Hood River County, Wasco, Clackamas, Marion, Lynn, Lane. I mean, it can name all the counties, but basically everywhere shaded in that light yellow shading is under a dense smoke advisory until at least 8 a.m. tomorrow. The visibility 1 to 2 miles, but I can tell you this, it's even less than that in a lot of places. Let's go ahead and check out the air quality, and every red or magenta dot on this map represents air quality sensors from the DEQ that are registering unhealthy, or in some cases very unhealthy, to hazardous air. And that means basically, from the doctors that I talked to yesterday, they are recommending that nobody should be exerting themselves outside, and if possible, don't go outside. If you are outside, or if you need to get outside, it is highly recommended that you wear a mask outside. In the outdoor air, you'll need to wear a KN95 mask to help filter some of that particulate matter that's floating around out there. Live look from our Wells Fargo Sky Cameras. We bounce, we'll zoom in just a little bit locally, and you can see the sensors that we have registering again. Unhealthy, very unhealthy, and in some cases right over the Portland metro area and Vancouver too. Those two sensors there are registering hazardous air right now. So again, really, really terrible air conditions. The Wells Fargo Sky Camera hasn't improved much from when we were last here on our live stream. You can barely make out the Coin Tower over in the right-hand corner of your screen, and that's literally a stone's throw away from the Wells Fargo building as well. We'll switch gears, take you out to the Dalles, and the smoke is very, very thick in the East Gorge as well. Live look from Oregon's Veterans Home in the Dalles, and usually we see the Dalles, the city of the Dalles, off in the distance, and we can see a nice sweeping right turn in the Columbia River from this vantage point. We can usually see Mount Hood off in the distance, and of course none of that is possible today in the very thick smoke that is basically covering all of Oregon. At the coast, you can see the Astoria Column there, pretty well smoked in. Here's a look at the visible satellite imagery over the last 3 hours, and we are losing daylight, but what you can see on this map is the just massive area, land area, that the wildfire smoke is covering. There basically are no clouds. If there are any, there's a few maybe scooting through northern Washington, but everything that you see here over Oregon and Washington and Idaho is basically wildfire smoke from all the acreage that's currently burning here in Oregon and Washington, and of course California as well. And not sure that's going to change a whole lot here in the next 36 hours. Current visibility, we're down to a half mile now at PDX, a quarter-mile visibility in Aurora, McMinnville, and Salem, and a half mile out towards Hood River. So the visibility is bad in the smoke as we go a little farther south. Corvallis at a half mile, Eugene, quarter-mile visibility, and it's not much better at the coast, 2 mile or 2.5 mile visibility right now in Newport and Tillamook. All right, here's Futurecast, and our smoke forecast does show some improvement. The very, very thick smoke, the bright magenta color that you see, begins to get squashed back a little bit to the east, right along where the fires are immediately burning and then into the Cascades. Now, unfortunately, that means that the thick smoke plume will continue through the gorge, through the Columbia Basin, and on up into southeast Washington as well. So parts of the state will see some improvement as we go into Sunday night and Monday. A lot of the state may not. And it looks like we're going to be in this for quite a while until we can really get a handle on these fires, until Mother Nature puts these fires out with some rain. All right, let's go ahead and check out a couple of questions. I know we had several questions actually coming in last time, so I wanted to kind of circle back through some of these as I didn't get a chance to answer all of them. So let's take a couple viewer questions here. Again, this is from the last segment that we did. Donnie Zavala, I hope I said that right, in Salem. He asked, if we get a good half an inch to an inch of rain, will we be dealing with the water runoff hurting our streams with CO2? Donnie, thanks. That's a really good question. And what I'm going to infer from your question, I think, is the concern about just the amount of smoke that we're putting in the air, and is that going to possibly contribute to an acid rain situation? Short answer to that is probably not. I talked to a good friend of mine who works for Gresham Water, and it brought up a good point that one, our soil is very dry, so we're going to get a lot of absorption. Typical rainwater is about 5.4 on the pH scale, so it's slightly acidic anyway. As soon as that gets into the ground, it basically gets neutralized, right? There's a lot of carbon going into the air with the smoke that we're seeing right now, but the chances are of that doing any pH damage to our streams and waterways, probably not. That's the best answer that I can give you right now. Of course, the long-term impact of all that CO2 being released is, of course, a whole different story. All right, Kimberly wrote on Facebook last time, Kimberly Waldrop, she said, the winds died down, right? Are they better able to control the fires burning in Clackamas County? Yeah, okay, no wind is certainly good for fires. It's terrible for the accumulation of the wildfire smoke that we are all breathing in right now, but we've got increased relative humidity, and the winds have completely slackened here across much of Oregon and Washington, and so that is great news for the fires. The increased humidity helps the firefighting effort. The wind helps keep the fire from getting up into the trees and crowning and spreading rapidly. So those are positives to the weather situation that we find ourselves in right now, which unfortunately for all of us is breathing very unhealthy air. And the last question, Roger Averbach chimes in and says, what altitude is the upper level of the smoke blanket? From some of the pilot reports yesterday, that was up around 12,000 feet. Looking at today's sounding from Salem, we saw a little bit of an inversion around 750 millibars. So give or take, that's about the top height of the cloud blanket, unless you're immediately over one of the fires, and then it's probably billowing a little higher. And that will change from day to day and from location to location, because the smoke is not just one plume up through the sky. There's pockets of it here and there, but generally speaking, we are all blanketed in that. Okay, one of our questions kind of alluded to the fact that we've got some rain in the forecast. Yes, we do. Here's a quick look at Futurecast. Tomorrow is dry, and if it weren't smoky, tomorrow would be a sunny day. Monday, a different story. As we look at the graphics here, we've got a weather system coming in from the west. This is Futurecast at 5 p.m. Monday afternoon. We keep the clock in the upper right-hand part of your screen, and you can track this along at home as we advance this. You can see that we've got a pretty potent mid-September storm system coming through, and when I say potent, it's got a reasonable amount of moisture with it. So we've got some hope here that this thing is going to bring with it not just mist and drizzle, but a reasonable rainfall across the area. This is what Futurecast is showing us right now. Maybe 6/10 or better of an inch of rain in Portland, maybe a half an inch in Salem, and maybe a third to a half an inch at the coast. Again, a couple of days away and things could shift around a little bit, but this is the best possible news that we could get here in the Pacific Northwest, is that we do have a legitimate chance of legitimate rainfall as we go into the first part of next week. I'm not sure that that rain makes it over the Cascades, clears out the air on the east side, but west of the Cascades it will help, and it will certainly help to put kind of a lid on the fire situation as well. And the wind forecast, again, here's a look at Sunday morning. This is at 9 o'clock, and Futurecast has basically no wind, right? When we had the firestorm that blew up on Monday night and Tuesday, that was because we had howling east winds across the region, but we don't have anything like that in the forecast the next couple of days, and we're really, really happy to tell you that. Okay, let's get to a couple more questions as we're taking your questions on YouTube and on Facebook. And by the way, for anybody that's watching this right now that is continuing to look for up-to-the-minute information on evacuation orders, be it levels 1, 2, or 3, get-out-now orders coming in from your local municipalities. We have got that information live on the front page of our website, kgw.com, and that's where you're going to want to go to find that information. We are literally putting that up there. The second we have it in our hands, it is going live to our website. So this is the most up-to-date information that we can bring you on kgw.com. For the weather questions, Alyssa Mitten is asking, how are the fires, or are the fires slowing down? Yes, they are. I think, the weather conditions are helping the fires settle down. They're not getting up into the treetops. We don't have the gusty winds blowing the embers around. That said, if you live in a level 2 or a level 1 evacuation area, you need to absolutely, 2, you need to be ready to move now voluntarily, and 1, you need to go. So just know that the fires are still moving. They're just not moving with that ferocious speed that they were moving at earlier in the week. All right, next question. Air worse today in East Portland than yesterday. What about tomorrow? Susan Moore asks on Facebook. Probably similar. Our smoke model shows that smoke kind of hangs around over basically everywhere west of the Cascades. We'll probably see a little bit of improvement at the Oregon coast tomorrow as that weather system offshore gets a little closer. The wind picks up a little bit there and we get a little bit of mixing out. But I think it's going to take a couple more days before we really get out of this. It's going to take that front coming through, bringing us rain to help improve the sky conditions noticeably. One more question. Joe, yes, Joe, the only positive with the smoke is that it's keeping temperatures down. Notice how the dew on the cars. Yeah, Joe, that's a great observation. If you were watching us about a week ago, we talked about how we were going into a stretch of 90-degree heat, and while we weren't sure that we were going to be 90 every day, we were looking at the models 2 weeks ago saying, man, September could quickly rack up 10 90-degree days. The smoke has absolutely put a lid on the heat. If we didn't have the smoke over us right now, we would be experiencing some pretty hot weather. We think we'd be in the upper 80s to around 90. That was our forecast last week for this week. Nobody could have anticipated just the ferocious firestorm that we went through, and obviously, yes, the smoke is limiting our temperatures. So now we've got highs in the 60s and lows in the 50s. I think upper elevations in the Cascades may even get down into the 30s tonight. So it is limiting the heat for sure. Which brings up another point, by the way. Indoor air quality. I talked to one doctor yesterday with Clackamas County Health, and the suggestion was, A, don't go outside. Don't go outside unless you have to. The air is hazardous in many cases. If you do have to go outside, you're going to want to wear a KN95 mask. Keep your doors, keep your windows closed, stay inside. In terms of your indoor air quality, you can do a couple of things. One, you can put your thermostat, you can set your thermostat. There should be a setting. Most modern thermostats allow you to set it on a fan-only mode. And so what that will do is allow you to constantly circulate air through your HVAC system and, importantly, your HVAC filter. And depending on the rating of that filter, it could remove a fair amount of particulate. If you have the benefit of a MERV 13 rated filter, it's going to take out a lot of smoke and a lot of particulate out of your air. Barring that, and if you don't have that type of a function, your best bet might be to take the furnace filter out because you're not using it, make sure that that's shut off, and you can actually put that on the back of a box fan. If you're having poor indoor air quality, if you have smoke in your home, one thing you can do, and again, this is a Band-Aid, it's a tiny Band-Aid, but it could help, is to tape that filter to the back of your box fan and then run the air through that. Again, keeping doors and windows closed. You do not want to bring any more outside air into your home in conditions like these. Let's see. How is the containment in Malala? Again, Janet Moore, thank you for asking that question about containment in Malala. Again, for the absolute latest on fire conditions, where the fire lines are right now, and what the evacuation orders are, I urge everybody to go to kgw.com. That is where we're updating that information live as fast as we're getting it into the newsroom, and is going live on our website to keep everyone safe from the encroachment of the wildfire. Okay, Kelly Gilson asks, I know breathing in ash is not good for us. I wonder if you knew what the ash is doing to our environment in terms of long-term to our trees, plants, rivers, etc. Kelly, I sort of answered a question about this just a few minutes ago about whether or not this was going to be significant enough to, say, create acid rain, right, from all the CO2 that's being released from the fires, from the massive amount of smoke that we're putting in our air. Typical rain, neutral rain, if you will, is slightly acidic by nature. It's about 5.4 on the pH scale. It's possible that with all the amount of carbon that we're injecting into the air right now from our wildfire smoke, that there's a slight skew towards even more acidic than that. But the runoff, I mean, our soils are really dry. Any runoff that we get is going to be quickly absorbed into the dry dirt right now and then neutralized. So the short-term question in terms of streams and whatnot, probably not too big of an impact. Ashfall and the smoke that's in the air, global impact and whatnot, that is to be determined. But I think what we know about climate studies now is that we're injecting a whole lot of carbon and CO2 into our air, and we know that that can't be good. Okay, will we get enough rain? Sandy Simon McIntyre asks, will we get enough rain to lower the fire danger levels? Absolutely. Let me rephrase that. I should walk back on that statement a little bit. Models right now are showing us that we could see a good half an inch, 6/10 of an inch of rain in the valley. That is nothing but good news. The more the better, as long as it doesn't all come at once and we start talking about flooding concerns. So if we're able to realize that kind of rain, yes, absolutely, it will help lower the extreme fire danger that most of the state is under right now. Word of caution, models could be a little on the high end. Also, depending on where you are, again, if you don't get the rain, if you don't get that much rain, then your fire danger will change proportionally, I would think, to the amount of rain that we get. And this is a one-time shot and then some showers in the forecast after that rain event passes. And let's see, how are pets affected by smoke? There are, and we've done a couple stories on this. Check our website out. Of course, pets are being evacuated with humans as well. The smoke is just as bad for animals as it is for pets. And another post that I've been seeing going around on Facebook, it's been making the rounds about other wildland critters and whatnot that are likely escaping from the smoke. You can put some water out for them. don't bother them. Just put some water out for them as you get out, because they're in search of shelter from the firestorm, just like the rest of us are. Okay, what are we coming up here? Let's see. Wondering if Jessica Scoville asks, I was wondering if Portland and Gresham will be getting an evacuation notice or not. Okay, currently to my knowledge there is none, and again I want to refer everyone to the KGW main page, kgw.com, for the very latest on any evacuation orders that are posted. But right now, to my knowledge, there are none in Multnomah County. And let's see, I know we got a couple more questions that I may have slipped through here, or maybe not. Okay. So we're back live here real quick. I want to just kind of end with, thought I would end with what looks like another one of the positives here in terms of rainfall, but also the wind. Remember, the wind is what made the fire situation just unbelievably explosive, right? Our wind forecast remains low through Monday morning. That's not great for the air quality. Our air quality is going to remain poor likely through Monday. But in terms of the firefighting efforts and the fires themselves, low wind is a good thing. If there's any more questions coming in, be happy to answer them. Of course, don't forget that coming up at 5 o'clock, we're going to have a full half hour plus maybe an hour newscast on kgw.com. Matt Safino will be in taking your questions and also giving you the weather forecast this evening. I think we've got time for one more. When it rains, will the rain be safe to be in? Yeah, it's water, it's ash. I mean, don't drink it, right? But I can't imagine that a little bit of rain falling on any of us would be a bad thing. And there was one more question. Is flooding a concern in the long run? Dave Finney, yes, we always see this. Anytime we have significant burning, significant fires and burn scars, when we start to get heavy repeated rains on those burn scars, flooding and mudslides become an issue, and this is sometimes realized even 1, 2, 3 years after significant fires. So even after the cleanup, places in the Santiam Canyon, parts of Clackamas County, in Clark County, where we've got the Big Hollow fire burning, any areas that have been burned by fires eventually are susceptible to mudslides, and that's something, of course, that the amount of rain we get and how fast we get it that will determine that. Hey, stay with us. Coming up in about 30 minutes or so, we will be live on KGW.com with a full wrap-up of today's events. Matt will be in with your weather forecast, and I'll be here to continue to answer some of your questions as well. Thanks for joining us.